morning all, and welcome to this evening's extraordinary meeting of the Council. It's with great sadness that we have learnt this morning of Pauline's passing. May I, on behalf of the Council, offer our sincere condolences to Pauline's husband Barry, children Emma, John and granddaughter Macy, and to Pauline's wider family. We have spoken with Pauline's family today, and it is their will that the meeting should continue tonight, and I know the Council. It's with great sadness that we have learnt this morning of Pauline's passing. May I, on behalf of the Council, offer our sincere condolences to Pauline's husband Barry, children Emma, John and granddaughter Macy, and to Pauline's wider family. We have spoken with Pauline's family today, and it is their will that the meeting should continue tonight, and then the Council. A very special warm welcome to you all, and on what will be a very sad day for you. The flag at the Town Hall was lowered to half-mast today, and will be lowered again on the day of the funeral as a mark of respect to Pauline. Before we observe a minute's silence, can you all mute your microphones, and those dialing into the meeting via your phone, ensure that you are in a quiet space. If I can ask, can we now observe a minute's silence for Pauline, and can you all remain seated? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm Councillor Wendy Johnson, Mayor of Warrington, and I will be chairing the meeting this evening. The meeting this evening will be tinged with great sadness, but one of joy in celebrating Pauline's achievements. I will need to keep some structure to the meeting, but I know it will be emotional for that of the family, but also for councillors and officers, many who have known her for a long time. In addition to this, we have the COVID pandemic, so there will be some announcements I may need to make regarding those, so please bear with me. Due to the current coronavirus pandemic, the Council has taken steps to follow restrictions and health guidance in relation to self-isolation and social distancing, whilst fulfilling our duties as a Council. This is the first full meeting of the Council that is being held remotely. The meeting is being broadcast live to the public in line with requirements of Coronavirus Act 2020, Section 78. As this is an extraordinary meeting, I confirm there is only one item on the agenda. To be clear, that also means that the temporary delegations for small amount of full council functions put in place until an AGM and subsequent meetings of the council can be held remain in place in the constitution for the time being. I will now call each councillor's name alphabetically to determine if they are present, and I will state if we have been sent apologies. Following this, I will list the names of any officers present. Thank you. So I'll start with the list now. A. Abby. Councillors, can you remember to unmute when I ask if you're present? Have we got Councillor A. Abby? Councillor B. Axel?
Present.
Councillor B. Barr?
Present.
Councillor R. Bate?
Present.
Councillor M. Biggin?
Present.
Councillor R. Bowden.
Present.
Councillor Kate Buckley has sent apologies. Councillor P. Carey.
Present.
Councillor J. Carter.
Present.
Councillor Hay Cooksey.
Present.
Councillor M. Cregan. Councillor M. Cregan. Councillor J. Davidson.
Present.
Councillor L. Duray.
Present.
Councillor G. Fellows. Councillor C. Fitzsimmons.
Present.
Councillor J. Flaherty.
Present.
Councillor Anna Fradgley sent apologies. Councillor D. Friend.
Present.
Councillor G. Friend.
Present.
Councillor C. Froggatt.
Present.
Councillor J. Grime.
Present.
Councillor J. Guthrie.
Present.
Councillor S. Hall.
Present.
Councillor M. Hannon.
Present.
Councillor S. Harris has sent apologies. Councillor J. Hart.
Present.
Councillor T. Higgins.
Present.
Councillor A. Hill.
Present.
Councillor T. Jennings.
Present.
Councillor D. Keane.
Present.
Councillor J. Kerr Brown. Councillor John Kerr Brown. Councillor A. King.
Present.
Councillor R. Knowles.
Present.
Councillor S. Christenack. Councillor B. Marr sent apologies. Councillor I. Marks sent apologies. Councillor T. Williams.
Present.
Councillor P. Wright.
Present.
Councillor S. Wright.
Present.
Thank you. We have officers present.
You missed
Madam Mayor.
Did I miss? Councillor T. McCarthy sent apologies. I missed a page. Councillor M. McLaughlin.
Present.
Councillor C. Mitchell.
Present.
Councillor L. Morgan.
Present.
Councillor K. Morris. Councillor K. Morris. Councillor H. Mundry.
Present.
Councillor K. Mundry.
Present.
Councillor S. Parish sends apologies. Councillor Patel sends apologies. Councillor D. Price.
Present.
Councillor R. Purnell.
Present.
Councillor M. Smith.
Present.
Councillor Tarr sends apologies. Councillor P. Walker, I believe we have apologies for. Councillor P. Warburton.
Present.
Councillor G. Wellborn, we have apologies for. Councillor J. Wheeler.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Officers present tonight are Stephen Broomhead, Chief Executive, Matthew Cumberbatch, Director of Law and Governance, and Sharon Parker, Democratic Services Manager. So I'm going to now move on to item 2. Do we have any code of conduct declarations? Any declarations of interest? Okay, thank you, councillors. Item 3 is appointment of Honorary Freeman. Before I start the discussion, can I please refer members to the booklet prepared for the occasion, outlining Councillor Pauline Nelson's eminent service to the borough. There have been many aspects, including Pauline's single-minded campaigning for her ward, ensuring virtuous presence was always felt. Her championing of causes for the young and the vulnerable. Her work supporting not only the community aspect of Warrington Walls, but also the team. We all remember more recently Pauline supporting Ben Westwood when he was also becoming an honorary citizen of the town a few months ago. Finally, I am delighted to see our twin councillors. Can I ask that we can make sure that our mute buttons are on, because we are getting some interference. Can everybody mute, please? Thank you. I am delighted to see our twin town of Hildon sending their best wishes for all Pauline has done for this link. In fact, the current mayor was part of a young person's exchange to Warrington all those years ago and remembers Pauline. I have a letter here from the mayor of Hildon, which I will read out as written. Dear Pauline, it's a great idea to make a book for you that shows what makes you important and such a wonderful person. I got to know you at the beginning of the 80s, me as a participant in Warrington Hildon Youth Exchange at the age of 15. You were our guide, companion and youth worker. It was a great vacation. I got to know and love Warrington. Your opinions was getting to know each other defeats prejudice and is the way to international understanding and peace. You started implementation from the bottom between twin towns and with children. I understand that only much later when I became a councillor myself, and that was the time we met again at many mutual visits from Hildon and Warrington, inhabitants, clubs, councillors and mayors. From official meetings, we became close friends. You are an incredibly committed, heartedly humorous, lovable, positive-minded, powerful and a great woman. We have worked and celebrated together. We discussed how our hometowns and solving problems and learned a lot from one another. You showed me that every human is counting and deserves respect and positive regard. By the means of the town twinning, we work together for a peaceful Europe. You love taking part in Hildon Carnival, and I was really proud to be invited to your Mayor's Ball. Thank you for being friends. Lots of hugs from Hildon, from Bridget, the Mayor. I will now move on to councillors. Can I call upon Councillor Russ Bowden and Councillor Mike Hannon to propose and second the appointment of Councillor Pauline Nelson as an Honorary Freeman of the town of Warrington? Thank you. Councillor Bowden.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's my absolute privilege and honour to be proposing Councillor Pauline Nelson for Freedom of the Borough of Warrington today. It's been an incredible last few months with the coronavirus, and I think that didn't really match up to Pauline passing away on the very day that we were about to make her a Freeman of the Borough. But you know, I don't think this is a time to be sad. You know, this is the opportunity to pay tribute to Pauline for the formidable contribution that she's made over more than 40 years here in Warrington. She has genuinely made an outstanding contribution, and I think it's right that we celebrate that today, and for her family to participate and to hear indeed from other people what a tremendous woman she really was. Pauline came to Warrington in 1979. She brought her family from the peace and tranquility of the Orkney Isles to Birchwood, which at that time was just at the start of its new town transformation. Indeed, Pauline and her family were one of the first families to move into Birchwood in Curlew Grove, and I think that is really what sets apart Pauline from so many others. You know, Pauline right from the outset took her mission to be building that community from scratch. And you look at the transformation now of Birchwood from that time in the late 1970s, a place with very little, to the place that it is today, with a very strong, thriving community, and also, you know, a vibrant heart within our local economy here in Warrington. And that is, you know, an absolute testament to the way that Pauline rolled her sleeves up and got stuck into the very many challenges that community faced. Pauline was first involved with the Church of the Transfiguration in Birchwood, and that's where she started being involved in youth activities in Birchwood originally. She then moved on to becoming formally trained as a youth worker, and that was her real vocation, supporting young people. And through various venues in Birchwood, whether it be the Junction, the Black Hole, Jojo's or the Play Hut, Pauline was always at the centre of youth activity in Birchwood. And she saw very much that the key to that community was, and building its strength, was about young people and offering them opportunity and offering them activities in that place. And it's incredible, really, when you look at Birchwood today. When I first started on my political journey under the wing of Pauline, we would meet so many people that actually had grown up in Birchwood and had stayed in Birchwood and raised their own families there. People of I guess, my kind of age who still remember Pauline with incredible fondness from their formative years and still held her in a great deal of esteem and respect. And really that kind of youth work sort of moved on from Birchwood to Pauline's role more widely in Warrington. We've heard from the Mayor of Hildon about those Warrington youth exchanges that were held in the 1980s. And really, I think that's the one continuous strength of that relationship with Hildon has been around those youth exchanges, of which Pauline was very much central to. And of course, Pauline became mayor in 2003, and she made youth provision and youth priorities her priorities in that mayoral year, particularly around her fundraising for charities. Pauline didn't just stop at youth work. She was a long-standing school governor, first at Oakwood Mount, which later became Birchwood C of E Primary School, and then latterly as a governor at Birchwood Community High School. And really, Pauline was an accidental councillor. She even told me this on Monday when I went round to see her. You know, that had never been her intention, and you know, just as time progressed, it was obvious that that was the next step for her. First with Croft and Birchwood Parish Council, later Birchwood Town Council, and then becoming Warrington Borough Councillor in 1991. And what we've seen there is almost 30 years now of dedicated service, not just to Birchwood, but to the people of Warrington in various roles that she's had in that time. Pauline perhaps always saw herself as a community councillor. You know, she never lost sight of who it was that she represented. She didn't become immersed in the goings on at the town hall, but absolutely remembered who she was there to represent. And pretty much anything good that happened in Birchwood had Pauline behind it. And, you know, I look at the struggles that Birchwood had from those early days in the late 1970s, early 1980s, the fight to get a high school. There we were trying to build a community in Birchwood where friendship groups were split going to the different high schools around Warrington. There was an obvious campaign there in order to get a high school in Birchwood. That was the first of many struggles with Cheshire County Council. You may well spot a theme in some of the campaigning work that Pauline did, because later on there was the fight to keep the high school. There were fights to keep primary schools open. And indeed, when Chatfield Primary School closed, for example, Pauline was absolutely at the front of ensuring that we had safe routes to schools for all our residents, for the other schools that were in the Birchwood area. There was the fight to get a Birchwood railway station, the fight to keep it when it was threatened with closure, and a 35-year fight to get full disabled access at Birchwood railway station, which finally happened just a few years ago. Pauline absolutely demanded the very best for those people in Birchwood and in every role that she fulfilled. And it was never a question for Pauline of, you know, just accepting that things, you know, had to happen or that you couldn't get results and change. And, you know, she made that absolutely her mantra with everything that she did in campaigning. And I remember the campaign as well for keeping Risley Moss open in the early 1990s. That was when I first came to Birchwood and Warrington, and when I first met Pauline. Another fight against Cheshire County Council to keep what we now recognise as a true jewel in the crown of Warrington. Pauline was also instrumental in having it recognised as a site of special scientific interest. And you know, her whole political career was about delivering for the people in Birchwood and more generally in Warrington. I think today with the news, I've had literally hundreds of messages from people across Warrington, but particularly in Birchwood, people who have incredible fond memories of Pauline, of her dedication and service and what she achieved for people, particularly young people. And for many, Birchwood is absolutely synonymous with Pauline Nelson. And it is incredibly heartening to see the warmth of support and messages that I've received today. We talk about political careers. Pauline has had nothing but an absolute stellar career in all her time in Warrington. More than 40 years of dedicated service to people. And for somebody who asked and took very little, Pauline incredibly gave an incredible amount from herself. And that is a real test, I think, of public service and duty. Of course, Pauline is also synonymous with Warrington Wolves, absolute stalwart supporter of Warrington Wolves, one of the founder members of the Wolves Supporters Trust. And it didn't just stop there. Pauline, threw herself into the activities of the club, initiatives like Squad Builder, the Warrington Wolves Foundation, for example. And she built many strong and personal friendships with the players, and was heavily involved, for example, in testimonials for Lee Breers and Ben Westwood in recent years. And that's actually where I found out where I was in the pecking order. You may remember, Madam Mayor, I said that I went round to see Pauline on Monday. I was beaten to going to see Pauline by Ben Westwood and Lee Breers, who went on Sunday, so I knew where I was in her affections. Pauline, absolutely loved being involved with the players and supporting the club. And she did tell me on Monday who her favourite was, but in order to, I'll keep that secret, I think, in terms of who her favourites were. But she, had an incredible spirit, generosity about her, and there was never anything that was too much to ask. She gave so much of herself for all sorts of causes. And I think it was really the warmth and friendship which stands her apart. She was never, more important than anybody else. She always took the time to speak to people, particularly in time of need. And she became an absolutely loyal, trusted friend of mine, as well as a colleague. And, it's been an absolute privilege to have worked alongside her in Birchwood. Of course, Pauline should have retired last month, but obviously we had the elections delayed due to the current COVID crisis. I always felt that we were going to have to recognise the great contribution that Pauline and other councillors who are due to retire have made to Warrington. It just seems incredible that here we are considering Pauline's worth to our town, the great contribution that she's made on such a day. But it's been an absolute privilege to know her, and it's my honour to nominate her for Freeman of the Borough of Warrington. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowden. Can I move to Councillor Hannan? Would you like to second and speak on the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members and officers of the council. Yeah, it's a great day of celebration. It's a great day of sadness today to lose Pauline, who I do class as my dear friend. And I know Barry, Emma, John and Maisie are probably at home, and other members of the family listening today. My deepest sympathy from Kate and all our family to all of you on this sad but celebratory day. Emma, just for you personally, I did ask your mum on Monday when I came and see her that when I do speak, it'll be warts and all. And Pauline's reaction was, I wouldn't expect any different from you. So I just want to pay my tribute to you, Pauline, because when you've been on the council such a long time as you have, and as I have, we meet and greet many councillors over the years. We've probably met over 1,000 councillors here in Warrington who have come and gone. And you create a relationship. I knew of you coming through as a qualified youth worker to the borough, and you carried on that role once you become an elected member of supporting and looking after the youth of our town. But I also recognise that we developed a huge friendship, a social friendship with your family, with my family, and that has stood the test of time ever since. And it's something I always remember from, because we've had some really great times together over the years as councillors and as friends throughout our time. And I hope I can reflect some of those in my time now. I know in the early part of the speeches and the reading out from the Mayor was Hilden. And I think Hilden was very much a regular on the agenda article. There was a special Hilden committee many years ago. And I think you've been instrumental in keeping the Hilden relationship alive. Many councillors will not be familiar with it, but it was a friendship organisation after the Second World War, when you was instrumental in maintaining that friendship, and that sings well today when you've had tributes from Hilden today of the role that you've actually played. You came to us, Pauline, as a Man U person, and soon converted to a Warrington Wolves person. And I don't know whether Man U got put in the background a little bit for the Warrington Wolves, but what an unbelievable person you've been to the Warrington Wolves. It's just incredible what you've done in over the need to do so in terms of Warrington and its support, and the friendship you created with all the players in the youth foundation and so on, in the youth support and squad builder and everything. It's been absolutely tremendous, and over the years, because we've sat next to each other at the ground, the old Witherspool and indeed the Warrington Wolves Halliwell Jones Stadium. I mean, these young ones that have come on as a substitute at half time, everybody around our little circle where we sit knew of your involvement with the club, and they wouldn't know the name of the young chap that come on the field, and they immediately turn around and ask, Pauline, who's that? And he was there to guide them and say who this young player was and say he's going to be a good one and so on. But your deep involvement with the club, you've got to see it to believe it, of what you've actually done for Warrington Wolves. It shows with all the players and respect that the many players have had. I know all the wishes you've had since becoming nominated for Freedom of the Borough by all past and present players has been tremendous. All those who retired, but all the stars that have been part of the Warrington Wolves set up, who have brought us a lot of success to our town over the years, and I know you've been party to that success. A couple of tales, because I remember going one of the games with John, your son, and half time come and we went down to the toilets to relieve ourselves, and John said, I don't believe this. I said, what? And we stood next to each other and said, I'm here in the toilet here and I'm looking at a picture of my mum on the wall, and there he was with your Warrington Wolves outfit. He was promoting something to do with Wolves, but there he was for all to see in the toilet on the floor there. And another funny tale I'd like to share with people, because at one particular time a few years ago, you slipped coming down the stairs, you had a fall, and everybody panicked and run round to your assistance and help you and got a chair to sit you on. Do you need a doctor? Do you need an ambulance? Do you need any help? And you're very big friends with Roy and Alex Chicken, who do a great deal as well for the club. And when you was asked, can we get you a lift home, your immediate reaction said, no, the chickens are taking me home. And everybody's looked round there and he's thinking, as Pauline had a bit of a more of a bang than we think so. But it's a tremendous role that you've done. Kate was very proud to have proposed you, Pauline, as Mayor of Warrington all those years ago, and you and Kate have become great friends. I think you're known by a couple of nicknames over the years, some from our former leader, Teddy O'Neill, of Bacardi and Coke, and I think the other one was Silk Cut and Half Cut was a nickname that was given to you. Another part of you, Pauline, it's not been mentioned so far, but you introduced me to Jules Holland and his rhythm and blues band. You taught me into going to his concert, because he used to come to Warrington probably at least once a year many years ago. And Warrington Power Hall, great venue, but probably for him and his band was in terms of what it would cost for his band to bring his band there, whether, I don't think the council would make profit, but he'd come. And I think part of that was because of you, Pauline, because of your role with them, because not only did we sing and dance and to Jules Holland, but it was always backstage after to meet Jules and all the band and you've become friends of all that band. You've just watched their families grow up. You bought the presents for their children, as you've done for the Warrington Wolves children who've been born over the years. It's that close affection that you get to people over the years. And Jules Holland, I say to all those who are listening today, if you've never gone to a concert of Jules Holland, and many of you might tune in at New Year's Eve for the Hoopmany, but I ask you this on behalf of Pauline Nelson, that if you see him advertising and go and watch him, because he's an absolutely formidable band and the music that he produces. And I do remember one occasion, I think I had the responsibility of our entertainment facilities, and unfortunately there was a fire inspection at the Power Hall and it didn't totally qualify really for it, and there was a doubt whether the Jules Holland concert that evening would take place. And after much inspection, it was decided the concert can go on, but on a strict understanding there is no dancing. That was said. I think Jules Holland was probably into his second song, and we've seen Pauline Nelson traipsing down the middle of the aisle to the front of the stage to start dancing, closely followed by the then leader of the council, John Gartside, who I thought was going to chastise Pauline and tell her to go and sit back down, who immediately joined in the dance with Pauline. So that rule and regulations soon went out the window, and in no time at all the dance hall was full, with everybody enjoying Jules Holland and all his entertainment. People ask where you were at certain times in life, and I was always asked, where was you at the time of the millennium? Well, I'll tell you where I was with my family. I was at Pauline Nelson's house all day and all night, and we celebrated the millennium coming in. What a fantastic occasion, something I remember well for many, many years. And there's some familiar sights over the years, because I used to take Paul in some of the games. Sometimes she'd take me, and the van or car he used to have, he was a high step, but Pauline always struggled to get in there. And on one occasion, one of our past players, Ben Evans, was seeing Pauline struggle and come right behind her on the backside and lifted her into the back of the car and so on. And Pauline afterwards was embarrassed by a little bit embarrassing. She bought me a blue stool that I've seen today, to be honest, this blue stool that used to help Pauline get into my car. But we had many wonderful experiences, many wonderful Wembley occasions there as well. Pauline, it is with great fondness, sadness, call it what you will, but I'm so proud to be part of this occasion today. You've been a true servant to our town, to Warrington Rugby League Club, to Hildon, and you and your family be extremely proud of you. I have the greatest pleasure in seconding the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Hannan, thank you. Can I now move to Councillor Barr, please? Would you like to speak?
I will, as soon as I've unmuted myself. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to Mike for that very emotional and heartfelt tribute to Pauline, which was very much deserved. I'm sad that Pauline is no longer with us to hear her colleagues' appreciation of her. She would have really enjoyed watching today's council, and I think it's so sad that just by a few hours she didn't make it. I want to pass on my group's condolences to Pauline's family and friends, who, however expected the outcome was, will feel shocked and saddened today. I feel an affinity for Pauline because, apart from our sometimes feisty exchanges in the council chamber, she represented the whole of Warrington in an unusual way. When Pauline arrived in Warrington in 1979, she was an early resident in Newtown development in Birchwood, as you've heard. At that time, I was teaching courses on housing in the Manchester region, and referred often to the attractiveness of Warrington and to those with get up and go in Manchester and Liverpool getting up and going there, Well, Pauline's family was one of those. They got up and went to the Orkneys, but then took the right decision and got up and came to Warrington. I visited Warrington regularly with students, comparing the poor urban environments of Manchester with the green village-sized communities around Warrington. The housing was better designed in Newtown and the job opportunities plentiful. Most new residents settled for a quiet and comfortable life, not Pauline. No doubt she and her family will have filled in numerous questionnaires about how they would like Birchwood to develop. But Pauline took it further. She put those opinions into practice in her community and youth work and her commitment to all her local residents. And she didn't settle there. She then went on to be elected as a borough councillor to express those views in the town hall. And very effectively she did that too. She stood for the
Councillor Barr, are you still with us?
Sorry?
We lost you just
Hello?
there. Hello, we can hear you now, Councillor Barr.
Can you hear me again?
Yes.
I will go back a couple of sentences if that's all right.
Yes, fine.
Pauline went on to be elected as a borough councillor to express those views in the town hall. He stood for the principle of one Warrington rather than Old Town and a separate new town. She had ambitions to reduce inequalities in town, which still have some way to go. She learnt Warrington ways and became a passionate supporter of Warrington Wolves, an institution that attracts support from both the inner and outer parts of Warrington. Today we've lost a loyal Warringtonian and we're the poorer for it. Pauline will be remembered with great affection by all who knew her. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. I have had indications from a number of councillors that wish to speak. I will deal with them in alphabetical order. So I'm going to go first to Councillor Axel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was very sorry to hear the sad news this morning about Pauline, and I send my deepest condolences to the family. As a member of the Council's Licensing Committee, I want very briefly to pay tribute to Pauline's exceptional dedication to her role as chair of the committee. Most of the work in licensing is not carried out by the 13 Councillor Licensing Committee, but by two smaller ad hoc committees of 3 councillors, namely the Licensing Subcommittee and the Taxi Subcommittee. And these subcommittees meet frequently to consider individual licensing cases. The subcommittees are formed by members of the parent committee, and when volunteers were needed for subcommittee meetings, Pauline was almost invariably the first person to put her name down. I remember thinking a long time ago that Pauline was someone who thoroughly earned the special responsibility allowance given to committee chairs, and she will be a very hard act to follow. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Axel. I'm now going to go to Councillor Higgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, there's been some fine words said about Pauline, and firstly I'd like to just say echo Councillor Hannon's comments about the musician Pauline, so much loved. Now, where do we start with someone like Pauline? Now, Pauline may have been someone small in height, but was certainly big in kindness and generosity. Now, when I first joined Birchwood Town Council, Pauline immediately took me under her motherly wing, offering me support, guidance and advice, something she continued to do until recently. Now, Pauline was never afraid of speaking up, and if she disagreed, she would let you know. But this was never done with malice. And in my case, if she felt unhappy with something I had said or done, which was quite often the case, it usually ended up with her giving me a great big kiss. Now, we measure people against their deeds, and Pauline was a generous person who would pull out £20 note and send me to the bar to get her a double Bacardi and Coke and get a drink for everyone else. She would buy tickets to events she couldn't attend, and she would offer money for raffles she didn't want to win. Her generosity was in her DNA. Generosity to her community and to her friends isn't something you can study as a degree course. You either have it or you don't, and Paul was a woman who had it in buckets. My condolences from myself and Ken to Pauline's family, especially to John and Emma. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Higgins. Can we go to Councillor Knowles, please?
I just wanted to say a few words about Pauline because, of course, I didn't know her terribly well because I've not been on the council for so long. But I do feel that I have been somebody who's experienced her kindness at first hand, being welcomed into the council as a new member, as somebody who showed me the ropes. And I have great admiration for Pauline's values. That was something that absolutely ran through her, and anybody will recognise that was a sort of primary characteristic that she had. She was all about people, but she also had an awful lot of knowledge. We've been hearing about her knowledge in terms of licensing, but just the ways of the council. She was somebody that I would ring up for advice, but also sometimes just to ring up and have a laugh with, because she was very funny as well. So kind, funny. Some of her kindness to me, as a fellow walking stick user and a fellow celiac, she was always somebody who was very keen to make sure that there was a gluten-free sandwich available on occasions when sandwiches were around. But she sort of thought of you, and I think that's been a characteristic. She thought of the whole town, and that's something that's very, very impressive, very human, and very real, and something that deserves everybody's respect. So at some point, when perhaps we do get to go back to the pub, I don't normally drink Bacardi, but I'd like to think that a small Bacardi and Coke will be raised in her honour, and people will recognise that, and there'll be a smile. She'll be somebody that will be remembered incredibly fondly by an awful lot of people. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Knowles. I'm going to go now to Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, it was with great sadness that I heard the news of Pauline's passing away this morning, and I'm so sorry she isn't with us on this very special occasion to honour her. I hope these words will be of comfort to the family, and I would like to pass on my condolences to them this evening. For me, Pauline embodied everything a good councillor should be, dedicated to her community in Birchwood and dedicated to her town. Hard-working, principled and kind, she made time for people and gave generously of her time. Pauline had a genuine interest in people and a genuine desire to bring about positive change to make people's lives better. And it's this generosity of spirit which really sums up Pauline for me. I remember conversations with her as a relatively new councillor, and she was always supportive and encouraging, and she genuinely cared. And over the next few years, I got to know Pauline better, and I learned to recognise her as a principled and independent thinker, deeply loyal, but confident and ready to call something out if she thought it was wrong. And she wouldn't jump to conclusions. She took the time to look into a matter thoroughly before making up her mind. And sometimes doing the right thing caused her personal difficulties, but she stuck her neck out for what she believed to be right. And I'm very grateful to Pauline for the personal support she gave me when I had some difficult political decisions to make. She took the time to pick up the phone, talk through the issues, and from there to give me her full support. And that meant a great deal to me at the time, and it still does now. And I'll always remember Pauline for her sense of fun, her wicked sense of humour, her kindness and compassion, her pride in her town and her beloved Warrington Wolves, her deep love for her family and her wonderful generosity of spirit. We're all going to miss her terribly. Rest in peace, Pauline.
Thank you, Councillor McLaughlin. I'm now going to go to Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, dear Pauline, a sad loss to all who knew her. I, as many others who knew Pauline, it would seem like forever. A tireless and caring work of her community and the town in general. For the last few years, I've worked with her on the licensing committee and its various subcommittees, watching, listening and learning from the best. Pauline was always firm but fair when chairing her licensing committee. And I think I speak for the whole of licensing, members and officers, when I say how much we will miss her. I'm currently the Deputy Chair of Licensing and I will do my utmost to keep up her good work. My condolences go to her family. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Pauline.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Can I now go to Councillor Mitchell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Colleagues, I was so sorry to hear the news about Pauline this morning. One of the things I'll always remember about Pauline is her kindness. She had a heart of gold. She gave me lots of support when I first joined the council, and I served with her on the licensing committee when she was the chair. I found Pauline to be an incredibly loyal person. She had a wicked sense of humour and of course was a fierce Labour woman. I also pay tribute to Pauline's courage. She continued to serve and to smile when she was very poorly. I can't think of anyone more suitable for this honour today, and I just wish that she could be here to share this with us, and I send my love and condolences to her family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Next I have Councillor Mundry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just trying to think which stories to go back on with Pauline now. I first met Pauline in 1995, and obviously she welcomed me into the group. She's a very genuine person, found to be very friendly, but also quite easily tell you exactly as it was if you needed to be told that way, and she'll tell you as it was then. But I remember a passion for youth work, for young people, and always kept saying the young people are our future. We need to ensure they get the best we can offer, and that's what Pauline says. And I think going back to I think it was in the late 1990s, she approached me and Karen, and with her friendship with Ilden, she said we need some young people to keep this going. She said we can't just have all the old councillors let this go. It's too important to our town, too important to the people, and too important to make sure people understand the peace is actually forged by friendship with other people, mixing with other people. And then she asked me and Karen to join in with the Hilden group, and that was the late 1990s. I think it was a bit, people might think it's a bit strange now saying she wanted young people, went to me and Karen, but at that time I was a bit younger. I do believe Pauline to be very genuine, very funny person. She enjoyed the times there, she enjoyed a good time, but she also knowed to be serious when she needed to be. I still remember when we had the Labour Party functions, Labour Party dues, petty elections times. It was always round to Pauline's afterwards, where she'd have a hot pot with a crust on to welcome everybody into a house. Any function I went to, the first person you ever met was Pauline at the door saying, we need to raise some money. I'm selling raffle tickets to make sure we can go forward. Pauline was always the first person to offer help, offer support, and made sure she put herself out to make sure other people took part in things. And she always, I think it's trying to think of the right words for this. She always encouraged people to take part, to be a part of something. She would never talk to people. She never talked to people. She'd actually say, "Don't listen to what I'm saying. Come and join me and be a part of what we're trying to achieve and what we're trying to do." So she involved people rather than just talk to them. So from mine and Karen's point of view, there we sort of better for knowing her. I think really good time we've had together. Many fond memories. And also, I can always think of 2 words to say is she's a genuine person and a very friendly person who had a big heart and always welcomed everybody and made everywhere she went a better place because she'd been there. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mundry. That's the end of my list so far. Do we have any other members who wish to speak on this item? If you do, please can you say your name? Any other councillors? Okay, thank you. We also have Ben Westwood who wishes to speak. Ben, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, hello everybody. First of all, it's lovely to hear all the testimonials that you've all said about Pauline, and I echo quite a lot of them. But where do I start with this girl? I know her through Warrington Wolves and the diehard fan that she was. I remember moving over here in 2004. I remember Pauline leading us out at the first game at the Halliwell Jones Stadium, which I'm guessing was a proud moment in her life. I really did get to know Pauline I've seen her at a few of events and some of the dinners that we've put on over the years, but my first memory was a ladies' night out at the Warrington Wolves Stadium, and I invited a lot of people back to my house as I've just bought my new house, and guess who turned up at the door? Councillor Pauline, and I was her taxi ride home the next morning at about 8 o'clock in the morning. I think Barry was going crazy, but I think that's where we kind of bonded from then, and she became part of our family, not just a friend, but she became part of my Warrington family. And another story was, I think I just overheard one of the councillors talk about the Jews Holland concert. Now, I was invited to a Jews Holland concert as well, and after the gig, she took us backstage, and on this particular one, Lulu was there doing some performances with him, and it just happened to be Lulu's birthday. So before we went into the back and thingy, she said, "I've got this cake. Will you go in and we'll all start singing happy birthday to Lulu?" So I walked in with this cake and I started singing happy birthday, but there's Jews Holland and all this band and Lulu there. Nobody else seemed to join in, and it was just me and my own singing happy birthday. And I had these stares of Lulu and Jules Holland thinking, who the hell is this guy? And I just thought one word, she stitched me up. And she did. But she was a diehard Warrington Wolves fan, as we all know. She went up and beyond all expectations when it came to her beloved Wolves. She was very fond of a lot of players. She had more favourites than one. I heard somebody say that she'd mentioned her favourite earlier this week, but I always remember Pauline chasing after the players. She walked around on that Zimmer frame, on the Zimmer frame and her walking stick, as I used to call it to her. But as soon as any players were there, the walking stick and the Zimmer frame seemed to disappear. And she was chasing after us all. But she was not just a friend, like I said before, she was not just a friend to us as a family. She was part of my Warrington family for the last 15 years or so. And she was fond of my wife and very fond of the kids. And they was very fond of her. She was a huge character, and she will be missed by so many people. I just wish that she could have held on just a little bit longer to be able to hear these testimonials tonight. But I'm sure she's up there looking down as listening and laughing at some of the stories that we're coming out with tonight. So a massive honour. I know I've got a slight inkling she was a big part in my honorary citizenship a few months ago, but there's nobody in this town that I think is more deserving as the Freeman of this borough. So congratulations, Pauline. You will be back at him, buddy. You will be surely missed and never forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben. Okay, I'm going to go back now to Councillor Bowden and ask, do you have any final comments?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I've just realised that I'm probably the first person in the history of Microsoft Teams to have a backdrop of an empty bookcase. But anyway, so be it. Well, thank you to everyone for all the wonderful things that you said about Pauline. I know today's been a really tough day for her family and her loved ones. Hopefully what they've got from tonight is that recognition that their special person was our special person too. Pauline, in typical style, when she found out about tonight's extraordinary meeting, just said, well, that'll be nice, won't it? You know, always underplaying the contribution that she made. You know, she was an outstanding person who served this town with distinction. And I think it's only right that this town recognises the great contribution that she's made over more than 4 decades, and rightly appoints her as an honorary Freeman of the Borough of Warrington. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowden. Pauline's family have asked that their thanks and best wishes are conveyed to the council for considering Pauline for this award. I'm now going to take this to the vote. I will do this by calling each councillor's name alphabetically. If you can respond for, against or abstain for the recommendation. Please make sure that you unmute for your responses. Thank you, councillors. So I'm going to start with A. Abbey. Councillor A. Abbey. Councillor B. Axel.
For.
Councillor B. Barr.
Abstain.
Councillor R. Bate. Councillor Bate. Councillor Biggin. Councillor Biggin. Councillor Bowden.
For.
Councillor Carey.
For.
Councillor Carter. Councillor Carter. Councillor Cooksey. Councillor Cooksey. Councillor Cregan. Councillor Davidson. Councillor DeRay.
For.
Councillor Fellows. Councillor Fitzsimmons.
For.
Councillor Flaherty.
For.
Councillor D. Friend.
For.
Councillor G. Friend.
For.
Councillor C. Froggatt.
For.
Councillor J. Grime.
For.
Councillor J. Guthrie.
For.
Councillor S. Hall.
For.
Councillor M. Hannon.
For.
Councillor J. Hart. Councillor T. Higgins.
For.
Councillor A. Hill.
For.
Councillor T. Jennings.
For.
Councillor D. Keane. Councillor J. Kerr Brown. Councillor A. King. Councillor R. Knowles.
4.
Councillor S. Christenack. Councillor B. Mark. Sent apologies, sorry. Councillor Mark's apologies. Councillor M. McLaughlin.
4.
Councillor C. Mitchell.
4.
Councillor L. Morgan.
4.
Councillor K. Morris. Councillor H. Mundry.
4.
Councillor K. Mundry.
4.
Councillor D. Price. Councillor R. Purnell.
4.
Councillor M. Smith.
4.
Councillor P. Walker was apologies. Councillor P. Warburton.
4.
Councillor G. Wellborn. Councillor J. Wheeler.
Abstain.
Councillor T. Williams. Councillor P. Wright. Councillor S. Wright.
4.
I'm just going to bear with me, councillors, because we had some councillors that didn't respond, and I'm just going to give another chance just in case somebody was muted. So I'm quickly going to run through just to see whether we've got anybody that's actually sort of come back into the team. So I'm going to go to if you're on phones, I've just been told that you need to press *6 to unmute yourselves. So anybody that's dialed in on a phone, if you press *6 to unmute yourself, and I'm going to just pop through quickly the ones that we haven't had a response from. Okay, so here we go. M. Cregan. Maureen Cregan.
4.
Thank you. Okay, G. Fellows.
Oh, so it didn't work.
No G. Fellows, okay. A. Abbey, Councillor A. Abbey.
4.
Councillor B. Axel, I think we got. Okay, so we'll go to Councillor G. Fellows. Councillor R. Bate.
4.
Councillor Mike Biggin. Councillor Biggin. Councillor J. Carter.
4.
Councillor Cooksey. Councillor Davidson.
4.
Thank you. Councillor J. Hart.
4.
Councillor D. Keane.
4.
Thank you. Amanda King.
4.
Councillor A. King.
4.
Councillor J. Kerr Brown.
4.
Thank you. Okay, Morris. Just bear with us, we're just checking the list so everybody's been given the opportunity and we've not missed everybody. Okay. Councillor T. Williams.
4.
Councillor P. Wright.
4.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience with that, councillors. We're just adding those up now. Just bear with us for a minute. Thank you for your patience, councillors. That's carried. I declare that Pauline Nelson becomes an Honorary Freeman of Warrington, posthumous. To Pauline's family, we send our love and best wishes to you. We will ensure that the scroll and booklets are brought to you and will keep you informed when the board is inscribed with Pauline's name. Thank you all. This ends the extraordinary meeting of the council. Thank you all for attending. Good night.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.